Hi, everybody. This is David Reece of Bangalore Choir, and I'm so thrilled that I'll be returning to France starting October 29th, 2025. And I'm doing about 4 or 5 shows in your beautiful country. Come rock with me and the boys. We're going to be playing a lot of songs from the new record, Rapid Fire Succession, On Target Part 2, and On Target, and some Except Eat the Heat, and a few classic cover songs that we all know and love. I can't wait to see you all again. See you soon.
Can you tell us how it happened to be back with Bangalore Choir? Was it a project you had in mind for a long time?
Uh, as you saw in the Moba, I played many songs from On Target in the set, and the response was always great every time I play. And honestly, as a solo artist, David Reece, people know me, but the strength is in the brand name, such as Bangalore Choir. So after I left France, after I met you last fall, I was driving home to Italy and I started thinking very hard about the future. And I was thinking about Mike Tramp and the songs of White Lion, a lot of the bands with the brand name Doc in. And honestly, it was partially a business decision, the branding, more strength. And I phoned Valentin Labani from the road and Splintering and said, I'm going to revive Bangalore Choir, and they were both thrilled. And I knew Memento. I knew that by doing so, pardon me, by doing so, I had to go back and study on target because I had done a few Bangalore Choir records over the years, and to be honest, the some had like three really great songs, and then maybe seven we call filler. So I put my mind back to 1990, 1991, which was very difficult because I was a lot younger and it was a different time, and really studied the whole concept of what I was trying to do then. And I reached out to Andy Susamil, the guitarist, and I told him my idea. So we immediately started writing for the new On Target. And to be honest, the first 4 or 5 songs didn't do anything for me. I didn't have it. I was starting to get frightened. Like, oh my God, maybe I've gone so long that I'm way past that. Yeah. But then the song Driver's Seat, which you've probably seen the video, Andy presented the riff for that, and it all just came together. Boom. I said, that's it. That is like slipping away. And then I think the second song was Bullet Train. And then I knew, like the rain falling, here it comes. And when Andy and I get focused, we have always had this kind of magic between us. Once we get in the right direction, it comes. So that was my thinking, and that was the reason I did everything. And here we are.
Considering the album Center Mass, it was released 2 years ago. Um, was there a kind of break after this record, or can we say the project or the band was on hold?
Didn't There was one song that I really loved that I wrote with Mario Percadani on that record called To Life. I did a video with it. But in all fairness, and if I'm an honest person, the songs were not of the quality that Rapid Fire Succession was on Target Part 2. And I knew that. When I finished it, it didn't really grab me. I mean, and funny enough, the promotion of the record was not that strong, so not many people knew that I did it. People see it at merchandising. Go, what is this? When did this come? And I say, oh, July 2 years ago. I'll buy it. And so there was not a lot of media attention about it. And yeah, I don't really think that I was there song wise. And that's really important to me. I mean, if I'm going to do this, I have to do it right. Yeah, I have to really focus because being a solo artist like Baptized by Fire, that's heavier music. I'm technically, I'm not a metal singer. I'm a blues singer, a hard rock singer. That's where I come from. John Fogerty, Greg Allman, Paul Rogers. That's my legacy that I began with Ian Gillan and Alice Cooper, Aerosmith. That's who I am. And not that Baptized by Fire was a terrible record. It was actually #1 in Germany for a month. I mean, and it did very well. But I wanted to go back to where I belong. And Bangalore Choir was my band. After I left Accept, I went to Los Angeles on fire to prove to the world that I mattered because Accept tried to destroy my life. I mean, my career. They blamed me for the failure of the record and all those bad stories you've read. And after 9 shows in Los Angeles, which is over the course of about 9 months, because you don't play every day there, I had an offer from every label in California. And I settled with Warner Brothers. And I had top management, Howard Kaufman, who handled Whitesnake and Heart, Don Henley. I had the whole package. Yeah. But then On Target comes out 2 weeks before Nirvana, Nevermind. So it's been a very up and down roller coaster ride. On Target never got the praise that it deserved. I mean, I was told my life was over, rock and roll was dead, get a real job. But I did not know that in Europe and in England and South America that On Target was really a powerful record, and many people knew it. And grunge had not really moved across the ocean yet, maybe a year later, and then took effect. Had I known that, I would have brought the band overseas and just stayed in Europe. Because I played Firefest with 3 of the original members in 2010, and people went absolutely insane. I had people say, I've been waiting 19 years for this. We did a live album that night, and it was incredible. But that was playing On Target, and those songs had a meaning in my life. And that's what I've tried to achieve with this baby. Have you heard it?
Yeah, I heard the 16 songs,
You
and
heard them all.
yeah, and I was really happy to have this how can I say, old school spirit, but with modern approach.
Mhm.
This kind of how can I say, not enjoyment, when you are young and thinking about no troubles, being in your ends, you know what I mean? But in a way, there is this kind of light feeling.
Yeah, I mean, that goes back to what I was saying. How do I recapture that moment? And obviously, with production and things that are happening now in the music world, you're going to get more of a modern sound, which is a good thing because I can't do a live 70s style record in this time. I mean, some bands are doing it now and they're doing it really well, but it needed that production value. And the guy who mixed it and mastered it, his name is Thomas Mergler, a German guy. Normally, I worked with Ricardo, my bassist, production, or Andy would mix and master. I stepped out of the box with on the recommendation of Giles Lavery from Brave Words to talk with Thomas Mergler. And when I gave him the first song to mix as a test, right away he captured it. I said, "Yep, This is the guy. They're doing a great job. I think the production's fabulous.
And yeah, I was curious to look on Discogs about the first album and to see the prices of the first LPs versions. And I was amazed. It's around 200 to $400 for one copy. How do you feel when you learn or when you see that those albums are so expensive for the people?
It's crazy. Um, my life has been, it's even like eat the heat with accept. My life, it seems that when a record of mine comes out, sometimes it's 30 years later and people tell me how much they love it. And that's okay. It's a little bit strange to hear, but um, those songs that I put in the set, everybody knows them. I never played France before. I met you. Of all the countries I've been to, I never played France. And when I played La Moba and I played Brin Zinc and the other venues, people were singing, just one night they were singing Freight Train Rolling, Angel in Black. And I'm like, oh my God. And people were coming up to me with the original copy from 1992. Yeah. And in those days, let me show you something. Um, when CDs first were released, I don't know if you're aware of this.
Yeah, I saw.
They came the long box, yeah, because everything was vinyl and they had all the storage, so they had to put the long box in so people could thumb through and look for Bangalore Choir. And the really weird thing was it was all this empty space and just a CD in the bottom, yeah. So this is my little collector, but I've seen these on the internet going for two to 1,000, even more. The original with the CD inside. I've seen people doing bootleg T-shirts that we never had selling for 100 euros and of that album cover. So yeah, it's flattering. Yeah, I mean the record. There are collectors around the world still that really want original copies that are unopened. I have the original Van Halen one album unopened from the first pressing. It's my baby, it's in my special place with my other vinyl. But I have many like that actually. But yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah, yeah. You told about the difficulty to find the right mood, the right state of mind to have this new record composed. And finally, when I see you've got 16 tracks, wow, finally, when you found the thing, you had, how can I say, a long time, a long period of inspiration to have a lot of songs.
I wrote this record with probably 80% with Andy, and I wrote three with Mario Percadani. There's going to be another single called I Never Meant to. It's about my divorce and my daughters from the 90s. It's a statement ballad, kind of. You've heard it. I Never Meant to. I think it's a brilliant song. I wrote that with Mario. I wrote I'm Headed For. I wrote Love and War. Um, a few songs with Mario, but honestly, there were about 27 songs I wrote in 1 month, 6 weeks. When I get kind of obsessive, my brain goes crazy and I don't sleep and I just focus. I write. And I've kind of taken a step back now because of this record. But we chose what we thought were the best 16, although the other 5 or 6 that I have are really good as well. So if I do another album, I'm going to call it Act 3 and Act 4. Yeah, that if this record does as well as I hope it does, and the way it seems to be going, then I'll probably go back into the files and re-listen to those songs that never made it to the record.
Mhm.
But I'm crazy. I mean, I have to be insane. I mean, Andy and I, we're like obsessive compulsive. When we start writing, it's burning. Yeah.
And during this writing period, were you also touring at the same time?
No, I was doing a few shows here and there. but I really sat down with pen and sending back recorded vocals on the phone to Andy, ideas. He was sending me guitar riffs. And I think the only song that was recorded a few years ago was The Beauty. I wrote that with Gorka Allegra, the bass player who played with me. He did some shows with me in Scandinavia when I did the Udo tour, Steel Factory, because the bass player I had to go back to his day job. And that was like 35 cities, that tour, maybe more. So Gorka called me when he heard I was doing Bangalore Choir again. And he goes, "Do you remember this song, The Beauty?" And I went, "No." And he played it for me. And I went, "Oh, that's perfect." Yeah. So he played bass on it, played little keyboards here and there. And I kept the vocal track because it was right, you know.
Mhm. So with this new record, when we see the cover, there is a kind of clin d'œil to the first album. I suppose all of this is linked and it's
Well,
made to do.
yeah, you've got On Target and then you have Rapid Fire. Now, to do it right, back to the branding. Um, and this came about, the artwork. I have done some records with a band, Russian guys from Gut. And it's a very sad thing the way they have to work. They have to kind of go around different countries to share music with me. And because of the war, I think, and everything that is being controlled with media there. But the bass player, Simon Zud, and Jan de Sector came to my house early last summer when I was doing this recording. And we had dinner and we just wanted to say hello and blah, blah, blah. And I showed the cover On Target to Simon because I know he did graphics. I said, I have to go back to this imagery. I have to get this. And I'm thinking what we call Rosie the Riveter kind of woman look from the 40s, the aircraft. I need to go to this. So I gave him what was in my head, and he came back with this. After about 3 or 4 attempts, we decided on this. I think Simon, if you look on the inside of the CD, you'll see his contact. I recommend him highly for artwork and layouts. He's really talented man. Great bass player too.
Okay, how did it happen to sign with the Brave Words label? Were you in contact with the people for a long time?
No, I wasn't. I know who Mike Randvold is. He's a legend in the business, basically. You know, he's worked with everybody. But in honesty, Giles Laborie, the singer of Alcatraz and Warlord, is a really dear friend of mine. And I called him when I decided to do this. And I said, I want it to be like On Target. And he loves that record. So he said, yes, yes. And he's artist relations there for the label. So he said, I'll sign you. Now I had another label that I'd been on that my option was up. And they asked me last November, are you coming back with another record? And at the time I said yes, but I started looking at the bigger picture. Brave Words has got 1 million people watching that website. It's a very well organized, media savvy organization, and they have really good people working there. And I needed to get away from the typically, as you know, in the media, you get about 4 weeks before the record comes out, big splash, everybody's interviewing. And then the day of release, 2 weeks later, nobody's talking about the record. And Michael Brandvold, when I first started talking to him, said, your social media is terrible. Your brand is shit. We need to get you in Instagram. We need to get you in bands in town. You need to really expand your outreach to your fan base because Facebook isn't enough. Yeah, it's the algorithm, everything. People have moved away from it. And I was completely inexperienced with this. He said to me, it's not really your fault, David. Guys after their 40s, they don't quite understand the market outreach with media. There are, look how many great bands are on TikTok and other formats that you've never heard of that have 5 million followers that are fantastic young bands. Nobody knows who they are, but they're doing their social networking all day. So I've learned a lot from Michael Brandvold that way. So that's been a huge plus for me with this new album. I mean, incidentally, 97 Underground in Baltimore, Maryland, I'm #1 with Bullet Train for 6 consecutive weeks. And Driver's Seat started in moderate rotation and now is climbing up to the top 10 area. So they really worked. I mean, to be honest, a few years ago, radio stations around the world that are still around, they would play my songs 1 or 2 times, no noise after that. But I have to give a shout out to 97, to Metal Shop, to all of these radio stations that are pumping this record day after day after day. And I'm more active video-wise with the fans. I'm more personal because people like that. They want to talk, hear what you have to say, you know? And I've made a huge step up in my following. So that was my decision. And I think it was the right one. It's not about money. Record companies, there's no budgets anymore, unless you're a Taylor Swift or, you know, Youngblood or someone like that. They're going to throw millions of dollars on you. And, you know, but I wanted to go to a place where I knew they would work my album and not forget about it 2 weeks after release day. Yeah. And that's the thing about this record. I mean, you and I could do an interview and maybe talk about Act 1 in a few minutes. Then we could maybe talk about Act 2. That's the cool thing about this. And that was one of Giles's ideas, I must say. He was thinking along the lines of Meatloaf, you know, the Steinman mentality of building a long record with quality songs. You know, you don't have 2 or 3, then a dive, and then keep it gradually going and give the people something to talk about. Like, why are there 2 acts? Why are there 16 songs? What does this song mean? Blah, 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 blah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And is it not a bit a paradox to have 16 songs on a record, knowing that people are not buying records anymore and that are listening to music on their phones, and hopefully they will listen to a half of a track and scroll to another one?
That's something that I can't control. I mean, I found that music has become disposable, which breaks my heart. Um, you know, I always compare it to like McDonald's drive-through music. It's like when you go to McDonald's, for instance, or Burger King, and you go to the drive-through, you order your food, and you get to the first roundabout, you've already eaten the French palms. And by the time you get to the next roundabout, you finished your burger. You get home and you forgot what you had for lunch. It seemed that music has become disposable. There's so much information. So that goes back to earlier in our conversation. You have to be in contact with your fan base and you have to sell your product as something with validity. It's got to be valuable because music is valuable. And these things have made our lives so corrupt. I can spend 8 hours on this thing and I don't even know what I'm doing. It's like my brain is mesmerized by this stupid computer. So my new plan is to use it as a tool for outreach. But you're right. 16 songs. Okay. Oh, God, that's 5 songs. Let me see what else is on. That goes back to in the media, you know, work the record, talk about Act 1, talk about Act 2, tour dates, you know, everything. Don't just throw it against the wall and hope it sticks and somebody goes, oh, that's a hit song. Yeah, I remember that, right? Because if you go back to On Target and 36 years or whatever, 33 years later, people are still singing, you know, I Slipping Away and If the Good Die Young or or Loaded Gun. They're singing that song. So those times, yes, we've lost. Yeah. In America, especially because it's a very much a here today, gone later today mentality. We're very impatient, I think. We have to have it now. In Europe, you can throw out a few shit records and the fans will still stay behind you because they believe in you. That's what I love about the Europeans. They believe in a band, they stick with it. Yeah. And there's more of a market here. I mean, for playing. America is really tough right now.
You told about the fact that last year France was the first time for you. You will soon be back, I think, in 10 days or something, back in France for 3 or more shows, I think.
So we begin the 29th and we finish the 2nd or 3rd of November. And then I come home and then I go out on tour with Alcatraz in Girls School and we play into December. So the timing is perfect. And the French people, I have to say, and this is not smoke, I was blown away by the reception I got when I played live there. I was shocked, it was beautiful.
And considering the release date of the album, I saw it was planned on the 24th, and on some others videos, the label is talking about end of the year. So what is the real release date?
October 24th. There was a mistake made in the beginning, and that wasn't my fault. I called them on that. They corrected it. A lot of people said, I thought it was coming in October this year. Why does it say 2026? I said, what are you talking about? And they said, that's what they're advertising. I said, oh my God. So we fixed that. But that happens with every album I do. It's never perfect. You know, there's always, you fall down the stairs. There's certain things that get forgotten or printed in the wrong way. I mean, that's a normal, necessary evil, I guess, that happens. It can never be perfect. But this, I have to say, is about as good as it could, in my opinion.
Yeah, and that's human things. So
Mm, yeah, we're not perfect. I mean, I have requests for interviews all day long, especially starting today. It's been crazy. You're the first one tonight. I've got more tonight after you, and the timing is everything.
that's
Yeah,
cool. That's cool.
coming to France. Coming to France. We come next a week from tomorrow. We're driving to France. Then we play Wednesday, the 29th, and then 4 shows, I think, and then come home and we're going to film a video telling your audience in France, Moba, and all the other venues for the song I Never Meant to want the audience involved. And I'm going to perform it and do it in black and white. I want the stage lighting in on it. I may find some cool looking areas to go outside and film myself, depending on the weather, but because I have to protect my voice. But yeah, this is going to be inclusive with the fans in France. And then I'll talk about that when the video comes out, filmed in blah, 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 France, blah, 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 blah. So the French people can be part of it. And yeah, I think that's special.
Yeah, I saw you had a newcomer in the lineup called Eric Juris. Uh,
Yeah.
I know this guy from the Crystal Viper years. How did you met him, and how did it happen to call him to be in the band?
Well, a few years ago, I headlined Medium. What was it called? Markthalle in Hamburg. I was a Friday night headliner for Oliver Lange Bangalore Choir show. And Niccolo Savinelli was the guitar player. And I said, this is a 2 guitar band, Bangalore Choir. And I looked around and I met Eric through a friend of mine. And Eric played with us that night. We rehearsed in the hotel room. and he did the show, and he was fabulous. Nicolo is no longer working with me. He's doing other things. So Eric brought in another guitar player named Diego Pires, who he plays with in Warlord. And I went to see Warlord in Milan, and I can tell you, I'm not the fan base there was about 1,000 people, our Manowar kind of crowd. Usually when I go to this venue, everybody knows me. I say hi to 100 or so people. I didn't know anybody, but I watched those two guitar players work together, and I said, that's a good team. Then I saw them open for Judas Priest 3 months ago here in Italy, and they were fabulous. So I said, I want them to play rhythm guitar and some solos on this record. So what I had them do was play rhythm 3 times each, the same on each track. So I could put the middle, left, and right spread of guitar playing. And then they add their little things here and there in between Andy and Mario's solo stuff. But they are going to be my touring band in France and the Alcatraz tour. And also Ricardo and Nelo are still working with me. They play on this record as well. Because, when you have a great rhythm section, because I honestly considered all new people, I thought, Bangalore Choir, I got to do something fresh. But then I started thinking closely. I've toured Europe with Nelo and Ricardo a lot. And when you have a great rhythm section, you don't throw it away. And they live in my same village. Today we rehearsed for 4 hours, the show, and everything is here. And I know them as men. And it's very important for me to have people I can trust. Ricardo does a lot of the driving. He's got a studio. I did all the vocals at his studio for this record. He understands my voice. He plays great bass. And he's great. And Nelo is a fabulous drummer. And Nelo doesn't care. He just wants to play live. He lives for the stage. I played last year Grass Pop with Iron Allies. He played drums with us, Herman Frank and I. We did a bunch of festivals last year. He was superb, completely prepared. So, I would be an idiot to change the rhythm section because I call it like driving nails to wood. You've got to have a drummer that's pounding nails into the ground and a bass player that's driving that heartbeat. Yeah. There's a million great guitar players in the world. And I have to say, Andy Susamil, like if you listen to the solos on Bullet Train and Driver's Seat, and the majority of the solos are Andy. He's probably one of the greatest guitar players I've ever worked with in my life. I've known Andy since when I was in Accept. He was next door doing UDO, Mean Machine. So I've known him for a long time. And we actually just did an acoustic set together in Switzerland in early September, and we're going to do some more in December when I get back from the girls' school tour. We just decided, let's play acoustic shows together, just you and me. And it was great. So we did really kind of non-famous songs. We did the Johnny Cash style, Hurt. We did, Personal Jesus. We did a lot of stuff that people weren't expecting, and the crowd went crazy. Andy's a great singer as well, so we harmonized really well together.
Perfect, perfect. How will you introduce this new record to people that doesn't know you, that doesn't know your past? Will you talk about rock, hard rock, or music in general? What would be your words, your brave words?
My um, explanation of this record is classic hard rock with big harmonies and big vocals, lots of melody. And for those of the people that don't know who I am, say they come into one of the French clubs, they've never heard of me. It's my job to present these songs. I'm the front man. You either love me or you hate me. There's no middle. They're okay, maybe there's a middle, but I have a confidence about what I do. I believe in myself. I believe in this record. And I think I can bring them on to my team once they experience what this music is. I'm not bragging. I mean, there's better records out there than me. I mean, honestly, when I'm at home, you know what I listen to? I listen to Tom Petty. I listen to Allman Brothers. I listen to a lot of stuff that most people would be surprised. I don't want to bash my brains in with metal all day. And I find artists like Tom Petty and Blackberry Smoke, they say more with 3 words than I can say in 10 words. There's, if you think of like, won't back down, won't back down, Tom Petty, great song. My wife and I went to see Blackberry Smoke in Italy a few months ago. I sat there stunned at how great musically they were. And I thought to myself, that's the new Tom Petty. They're taking the candle. And to hear, there's about 1,000 people, to hear Italians singing in English their songs, I had no idea they were that well known. And then sing happy birthday to the singer in English and then in Italian. It was a beautiful night. Good weather. It wasn't too hot. It was outside. That's the kind of stuff I listen to. And lyrically, uh, I'm not big on the party 80s style, And there's a comparison I'd like to share with your listeners. When I was in Accept, Udo was touring, and we went to some shows. And I went to a show, and the crowd was going crazy. It was about 3,000 people. And I asked the manager who was managing Udo at the same time. I said, "What is it about him? They love him." And she looked me in the eyes and she said, "He's one of them. He came from a steel town in Germany. He came from nothing. They love him. He's one of them." And it hit me in a way where I went, that's what it is. Yeah. Udo and I are great friends, been friends for 40 years, but I I realized that's what it was. It's Udo is from them, their culture. They grew up with him. And he never changes. The guy could sing 50 nights in a row and sound the same. I mean, the guy's incredible. I mean, I did 35, 38 shows with him. And he had a bone infection in his leg, and the doctors told him, "You have to go home and cancel." I never cancel. So he did the whole tour, the rest of the tour with a cane. And they took black tape and covered the metal on the cane so nobody could really see it. And he was hurting bad. He had a bad infection in his leg. He did every night like 100%. I said, he's a legend. He's a rock star. That because most singers, oh, I have a cold. Oh, I'm stressed. Oh, I'm depressed. 99% of singing is right here in your head. If you tell yourself, I can't do it, you're not going to do it. You got to get the guts. You're not going to feel great every day, but the people that paid to come see you, they want a rock and roll show. And if you're a good front man, you know how to work around those little problems you may be having. Yeah. That separates the men from the boys. That's life, right? Anything you do, any challenge I accept, I'll do it. Maybe I'm crazy. I don't know, but I just, that's how I think.
And I like it.
Thank you.
I'm done with my questions.
My pleasure. I see you next week.
Yeah, of course. Of course.
Where, which venue?
I will try to come to Montpellier. I'm not sure for Montpellier, but I'm sure with La Moba. I will be there.
Okay.
I
Should
just
be good night, huh?
yeah, yeah.
Should be a lot of people. There's like 3 other bands playing, I think.